Hi guys, Randall here. A couple of weeks ago I recorded a team using Oldoa, Yerma, and Joom at 120, and it was a lot of fun, but I felt like the map was not to their advantage, so I'm trying to give them another run in this map. It gives slash attack up, which is fine. Most of our team uses slash attacks, but it's not a huge swing in the way these things are going to play out, and then we'll try tackling a couple more modern teams. We'll see what we can find in terms of opponents. I will quickly show you the setup we're using. We might change positions a little bit. I'm not too sure what is the right thing to do, but here we go. We've got Joom. She's set up with really good HP and survivability. Not a lot of attacks. She doesn't have a weapon. She doesn't have an offensive passive, so we are relying on the other two units for damage, and she is there to survive as long as she can. She does have really good defense and decent slash resistance. This current arena teams are full of Esther, Clouds, and Charlottes, and then on the other end, Astrius. So they're all slash-oriented, they're all physical. I tried to build for this a little bit, but they are such heavy attackers that it's still hard to survive their damage. Then we have Oldoa, who's unfortunately at a point where she's so squishy she dies from a single hit from just about anybody at 7,000 HP. If I could make her tankier, I feel like she would be a fantastic Drain Force unit, because she heals back to full basically every turn, but because the enemy can one-punch her, it's still very threatening. Still, this is how she is set up currently, and look at that, 1,300 attack without a weapon. That is kind of insane for me. And then finally we have Yerma. She has 1,600 something attack, 7,000 HP. Unlike Oldoa though, she does survive a couple hits because she has 42 defense and okay-ish slash and missile resistance. She is weak to magic. It will be an issue if we fight magic users. Hopefully we'll try to target teams that don't have too many of those. So that is her. She does have a lot of damage. In terms of abilities on off, I believe I have just about everything on from these units, so nothing to talk about there. For Oldoa though, I did turn off Hazard Break and Hazard Form. I don't want her sacrificing HP. Instead, I want her to gain HP back by using Drain Force. I did leave though the AP Plunder on, because if she's in an angle where she can only hit in a diagonal, it could come in handy, and it still refunds its AP cost, so she'll be able to drain as much as she wants in future turns. So this is it for her. And then for Joom, as most people, I have Wind Blessing turned off. I don't like her using a physical barrier. Instead, I want her to use Vacuum Veil into her TMR. So that is the setup, guys. Okay, here we go. This is an interesting setup. They have only damage, so 3 units that focus on killing the enemy team very quick. They do not have a good way of dealing with Re-Raise and or Courage. So we could be well, but we really need Joom to get in range and then our team to position in a way that we don't get caught by AoEs. Against Cloud, AoE is not that big of a deal. He could use Barrage from the Ranger sub-job, but usually these hits a lot less intensely than the other attacks. But Esther and Joker, I am quite afraid of the AoEs they'll bring, so I guess we'll see what happens with that. First things first, Re-Raise from Oldoa, that's pretty good. And then it seems like the enemy Cloud will be alongside the back line, so we'll see an Esther rushing forward. And with her position, she might very well meet Oldoa quickly. So that could be an issue. Then again, even if Oldoa dies in a single hit, it's not the end of the world because she will come back. Meanwhile, enemy Joker attacks us from turn 1, which is really good for us in a way because now he's out of AP for the follow-up turns. Cloud is in the right position. Yes, Oldoa does get one punched. It's okay, only 22 AP left on the enemy Esther. So at that point, I feel like we're in a pretty good position. Joom is in the position we want her to be in. Just launch from Yerma, doesn't even need to limit break. That's the scary part about fitting her with so much attack, is whenever she decides to do this and not limit break, she is susceptible to getting popped by somebody else, so that's a little bit scary. Still, Cloud does the first hit on Joom, doesn't really do much. Unfortunately, Esther not in range of our tank right now, so she is able to kill Oldoa a second time just because she has one-shot potential. Another non-courage ability right there from Yerma, but it doesn't really matter too much because the Esther didn't have any AP to use her large AoE. So now Reaving Axe, this time the Barrier Breaker. Again, no need for the Limit Break because she kills with weaker moves every time. This time we have a pretty sweet setup. It's kind of the poster boys of Lightning. They don't have Ibarra, but instead it's the Cloud version, which is fine. I feel like both teams are very viable, so if we manage to survive against them, it's a pretty good showcase of our units. Again, what could be scary is Oldoa ending up in a 1v1 on her line, or maybe even Esther being in a 1v1 against our Yerma, because in that scenario, if Esther has her physical barrier, Yerma will use Reaving Axe instead of her Limit Break, which will lead to her then losing the duel. So I guess we'll see, but that is definitely something that could be scary. I just really hope that my units don't group together, and so because of that, Joom will be the target, and then we're good. So that's really what it's going to come down to here. How well do our units stay spaced out? So enemy Charlotte has her buff, the enemy Cloud, no AP refresh just yet, and we seem to be, I'll say, in a quote-unquote good position, because we could be AoE'd very much, but our tank will actually be in front. So there is good and there is bad. Let's see just what they do. So Joom moves forward a little bit, throws out her whirlwind attack, and then Yerma rushes to the front and uses Killing Axe. No! I'm starting to consider turning off Killing Axe, actually, because in a scenario like this one, her Limit Break would have been such a better ability, and because she uses that, she will die to the enemy Cloud, which means she doesn't get a second turn to start doing more stuff, and at that point, we are pretty much doomed. Without our primary damage dealer, there's no way the other guys are going to clear the enemy team, and then on top of that, Esther has crazy AoEs where she can just kill our entire team. So we lose Oldoa a second time, no way for Joom to carry this, so we just end up losing from the rush from the enemy team. Now this is spicy. This player uses Velne, and I think I've essentially never seen Velne in a team, so I am very curious to see how that happens. I'm also testing different formations. I feel like my tank in the middle slot leads to my team just grouping, and it is an issue. I would not mind it if my tank would pull the enemy team to the side and instead we could have a flanking Yerma or a flanking Oldoa, and the idea is my units should be able to do fairly well in a 1v1 scenario because they will give themselves courage or another means of surviving a hit. It's not that bad if they meet one enemy member without their tank, but the second enemy member comes around and starts chaining is when things really go wrong. So let's see what happens. Velne starts moving around, and Esther is supporting her. So far, I think we'll have a Cloud in front of Yerma. I just hope he can't one-punch us. So far, so good. So we will have a chance to give ourselves courage. And meanwhile, Oldoa just derps and has really weird movement right there. Not too sure what she's thinking, but I expect this attack from Yerma to pop Cloud right there. Yep, 9,000 damage. Cloud is out. We have courage on her. This is a really good scenario. The enemies are going to be hitting our tank, and while it will take a while for Yerma and Oldoa to reach, the enemy team should have wasted most of their AP by the time this happens. So I guess we'll be in a good scenario. So we get slash resistance down, but now Esther completely out of AP. Joom is going to start hitting them a little bit, but she doesn't have much in the means of attack in our setup. We really have outfitted her to be a tank more than anything. Meanwhile, the map being very mean to our Yerma, so she really struggles with movement, and Oldoa, because of her wasted turn, also has a really weird movement situation right here. Yerma, finally in range, just pops Velne with Launch. Whenever she uses a weak ability like Launch, I know it's a kill, because why would she pick one of her weaker abilities if it wasn't? So that's quite funny to see. So we're going to hit her once again, and then I expect the Barrier Breaker to come out. Yes, Reaving Axe, 7,000 damage on Esther, followed by AP Plunder from Oldoa, which finishes her off. Now this should be fun. It's an enemy team with Charlotte, Cloud, and Esther. They have a lot of damage. They have a tank that is in slot 1, so both our tanks will be facing each other. And let's refresh these. I want to have a good sample of fights to look at and talk about. So in this one, I expect both tanks to rush together, and then Cloud and Oldoa will be there early on, but I think Esther and Yerma will be trying to 1v1 themselves in the corner. Do I think Yerma can win? No, I don't, because she will use her Barrier Break on turn 1 against the barrier from Esther, and at that point, she doesn't get courage, Esther just one-punches her. Or at least, that's what I'm expecting. Maybe I'll be surprised. And apparently, Cloud is in range to buff Esther from turn 1, so it will be a 2v1 against our Yerma perhaps, I'm not too sure, but that makes it a whole lot more scary than I thought it would be. So Yerma starts running forward, probably gets in range of Cloud if he's the Ranger sub-job, but not of Esther. Yep, so he is Ranger, throws a barrage, Esther not in range, uses her own version of Courage, and runs to our tank. So yeah, having a tank on slot 1 in this map is really interesting. It really throws the enemy AI around and they start separating in each other, which is really good for us. So Yerma just goes ahead, kills Cloud, who was dumb enough to walk into her range. She now has an extra life, but then they're setting up to kill our tank. It's fine. I feel like she won't go down that quickly, even with a Lightning Imperil. Meanwhile, we use the Barrier Breaker on Esther. She's almost dead in a single hit. That is such a good attack. Like, it has almost 100 defense penetration because of what Yerma has otherwise. So unless the enemy team has a lot of slash resistance, it's really hard to mitigate. So now, enemy Charlotte uses Stunning Edge, not even finishing our tank just yet, but her movement backwards saves her a little bit right there, because Oldoa's not in range to drain. Still, Charlotte apparently does not have hate, so we are able to ignore her and pop the first life on Esther. Oldoa, will she finally reach? Yes, she does. Uses Triple Trick, which doesn't really do anything because we're not able to build a chain on that. And my Oldoa is set up without a weapon, so she really doesn't have a lot of damage if she's not using Drain Force. Now, she is using it though, 6,000 damage, gets back to full HP. I really can't imagine how Charlotte would clear our team at that point. So it takes a basic attack to the face, and we make it through. Aha, now I have a 120 version of Astrius with the Aerith team, so let's see what happens against this one. The last time I tried to fight against them, we ended up killing Celes before she could get healed, and from that point, it was really hard for Astrius to win. I feel like Celes, if she's hitting a team of very hard-hitting characters, doesn't have the means of surviving, unless they're mages and she absorbs it. So it's an interesting scenario where maybe I would be more interested in pairing Astrius with another attacker instead of her, so that you just have multiple threats that can one-punch enemies. But I don't have Astrius, so I'm just talking out of my ass thinking about what I've seen so far. In this scenario, he is set up to use an AoE buff from turn 1, enemy Celes uses Runic Blades, and then will likely be getting a re-raise from the Aerith. So we will have to hit her one more time, which will make a difference because we typically kill her right before the enemy Aerith revives her. So now if she's got an extra life, she will have time to come back. But never mind, apparently they do quicken. Why they would do that, I don't know, but now she starts moving further into range. Their attacker is really far behind. Look at that, he's got 100 AP already. He is set so that he does not need any form of AP generation whatsoever. So now we hit the enemy Celes twice. I believe she's got some form of movement down, because she didn't really move far forward here. So now Astrius takes an extra turn. Is he in range to hit? I think he might be able to hit Yerma, but no, just uses the Courage. Now, surely Celes is in range, uses her Limit Break, which will make it harder to kill her. She is starting to be low, but if she gets healed by Aerith, it will take a long time before we can finally kill her. And it is Aerith's turn, uses the Limit Break, which further increases the defense on Celes as well. I feel like Aerith is a fantastic unit for this team, just because whenever she heals, she also increases survivability, and as I said, Celes has some survivability issues. So we are going to Drain Force her. I feel like she has a lot of single target reduction. I know they have the Chaos Odin, which gives her 20. She probably has her own armor for another 10, and that is why we Drain Force for so little. So now Astrius unleashes the Limit Break, then gets hit a little bit, but it won't matter too much. What will probably is the Killing Axe right here from Yerma, so hopefully that does decent damage. I guess it does, but Aerith has time to heal. Now we do take out the enemy tank, so that is one down, but I think we'll start getting some pretty nasty AoEs from Astrius from now on. So Joom generates some hate, it does not move, so we do get several of us caught in an AoE. It takes down our tank and our attacker. Can Yerma do anything here? I need her to use her Limit Break, otherwise we are doomed. So she goes in the back, uses her Limit Break on Aerith, interestingly enough. So this will surely kill Aerith. but it makes it so that it's going to be hard to get Astrius down before he kills everybody on our team. So uses a 2-hit attack with the Crystal Tracer, it only pops Courage, and then he gets drained for a portion of his HP, but he still has Courage, so we do pop that. Will he win? Now he takes down Oldoa, and if he laps, he will win. Oh, that is so unfortunate. He was just much faster than our team, and was able to win by a slim margin. I've spotted a wild RNJ, so let's not think about it too much and just hit his team. I notice he's really built for accuracy, so we're leveraging a bit of an advantage where he's not built for something that's necessary against our team. But every match I tried with our win team against a dark team, we have been obliterated because they just have large AoEs that they stack on top of each other, and they are much faster than our guys. So I don't really think I'm going to win this, but hey, might as well try it out. It's always fun to see what other content creators have to offer in Arena. What I'm very afraid of is just Duane. Generally, he messes up our AI by forcing our tank to move sideways instead of forward, and if Joom is not the one getting targeted, we are in a lot of trouble. So our guys already start moving sideways a little bit. The enemy Black Rose moves forward, which I think is fun, but then Joom gets attracted by Duane, is not at all in the front of our team, and this is really what scares me. Enemy Duane set up with the Dragoon sub-job, so he jumps from his first turn, and then, okay, they're not able to follow that up with an attack. I feared that Joker would just shoot my Yerma immediately, and then we would be in deep trouble. But so far, so good. Now, Joom, please walk forward. Nope, you're still moving sideways like an idiot, so really, really bad. We Conquering Blow Duane instead of using her Limit Break, which is also really bad. Why would she not use her Limit Break there? I don't know. I feel like it was just a dumb decision from her. She would have been able to survive that hit from Joker and then perhaps have another turn. But maybe Oldoa is going to carry us one way or another. I'd be surprised, but hey, we can always dream. So now Joom still not forward, still kind of chilling in her corner that Duane completely messed up. Let's see what happens. Several of the enemy members are now in range to hit Joom. Oh, but Yerma decides to walk into the AoE by the enemy Black Rose. She was like, I might be able to carry this fight, so I don't want to carry, I want to die. And so she runs into the AoE, completely negating any chance of survival that we might have had left. So now we are going to take this hit, and then the Limit Break from the enemy Black Rose on Oldoa again, and at that point, it's over. Or so I think, but apparently the Black Rose decides to just cast Dark instead of an AoE attack, which is really weird to me, but I guess let's see what happens. Now we Drain Force the enemy Black Rose, take her out, she doesn't have re-raise, enemy Joker is out of AP, so you know what, even though I complained really hard about what our AI did here, I guess Oldoa somehow carried. Such a weird fight. So this was pretty fun overall. I feel like I would really need my Joom to have extra movement to perform well in this map. If she was further ahead and separated from my damage dealers, I would have a better win rate perhaps. I could do some more testing and make it better, but it was pretty fun. We won some fights that I was sure we would lose because they were full of more modern units, but against teams that were well constructed and had good early turns, we lose. There really is nothing our units could do. Still, I like seeing the crazy numbers that Yerma pops out. I like seeing Oldoa come back a couple times, so I'm glad I gave this team a second run. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.